That night, at the faux fancy Willow Court, my parents announced they were cutting me from the inheritance. "Be practical," Mom said, as if ordering dessert. An hour later, I got a misdirected text from her. "Terminate her before her options vest at 4 p.m. Make HR move." I stared at the screen. They weren't just disowning me, they wanted to erase my work. At the company where I ran compliance. "My name is Tessa Harlow. I am 31 years old, and I am the head of compliance for Norhaven Brands." It is a title that, until this evening, I believed I had earned, a title I thought meant something. The restaurant is Willow Court. It's the kind of place my mother, Eleanor, favors. Oppressively quiet, with lighting so warm and yellow it feels preserved in amber. The silverware is heavy enough to be a weapon. The water glasses are perpetually filled by silent staff in starched black, and the air smells faintly of old money, seared scallops, and lemon oil. This dinner was billed as a celebration. "Your father's 60th, darling," Mom had cooed over the phone, a milestone. But the moment I sat down, the atmosphere was wrong. My father, Arthur Harlow, wasn't holding court. Expansive and booming as he usually was, he was contained, studying the wine list as if it were a hostile legal brief. Eleanor was vibrating with a brittle, high-frequency energy. Her smile stretched just a fraction too thin across her sculpted face. It didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like a board meeting, the kind where someone is about to be fired. I recognized the energy, as head of compliance. I lived in the space between polite fictions and brutal realities. I was the company's structural engineer, the one who knew where all the load-bearing walls were, and which ones were riddled with cracks. The appetizers were cleared, seared scallops with a balsamic reduction that cost more than my first car payment. Arthur placed his wineglass down on the heavy linen with a definitive, ringing click. The sound cut through the muted clinking of the dining room. "Tessa," he began. He used the voice, not Dad, but Arthur Harlow, chairman of the board, the voice he reserved for quarterly earnings calls and hostile depositions. "Your mother and I have been doing some significant financial restructuring." I waited. I am good at waiting. In compliance, waiting is a tool. You let the silence stretch, and people inevitably rush to pour their anxieties, their justifications, and if you're lucky, their mistakes into it. Eleanor took over, her voice as smooth and rich as the creamed spinach being served at the next table. "We've been reevaluating the long-term capital distribution, a new family financial plan. It's about securing the Norhaven legacy." Darling. The legacy was always Dahlia, my older sister, the investment, the one groomed for strategy, for headlines, for the cover of trade magazines. I was the insurance, the practical one, the grinder, the one who got the scholarship, the law degree, the thankless, necessary job of keeping the legacy from imploding under the weight of its own creative accounting. "Given your independence," Eleanor continued, her diamonds scraping the tablecloth as she adjusted her fork, "and Dahlia's upcoming strategic role at the company. Here it comes, the final, formal recognition of my status." "We've decided," Arthur said, cutting to the chase with the clean brutality of a guillotine, "that the family trust, the estate, and all associated holdings will be consolidated and directed toward Dahlia's line." The waiter, ghost-like, appeared at my father's elbow. "More water, Mr. Harlow?" Arthur waved him off without breaking his gaze from my face. "To be precise, Tessa, your name is being removed from all inheritance documentation, effective immediately." It wasn't a shock, not really. It was just the final invoice for a lifetime of being the other child. It was the confirmation of 1,000 tiny cuts, of funded gap years for Dahlia while I worked 3 jobs, of family vacations I missed because my practical job didn't allow for that much time off. I kept my expression neutral. I'd practiced this face in hostile boardrooms. I'd held this precise lack of expression while facing down SEC auditors and angry VPs. "I see." My mother reached across the table. Her hand, laden with rings, didn't touch mine. It just hovered, a pale, manicured bird, inches from my own. "You're so strong. Tessa, you've always been the one who can manage on your own. You're practical." Practical, the word she used when I chose the state school scholarship over the private liberal arts college Dahlia attended. The word she used when I took the LSATs instead of a restorative gap year in Europe. Practical was their word for unfunded. "We knew you'd understand," Arthur concluded. He picked up his heavy fork and sliced into a medium-rare filet mignon. Blood, dark and rich, pooled on the white porcelain. Case closed. The execution was complete. "That's certainly a decision," I murmured. I felt a cold, clean numbness spreading through my chest. My phone, resting face down on the table beside my napkin. A breach of my mother's stringent etiquette rules, but a non-negotiable necessity of my job, gave a low, sharp buzz, an email. I didn't reach for it, not yet. I watched my parents. They were already moving on. Arthur was discussing the new marina expansion. Eleanor was critiquing the restaurant's floral arrangements. I was dismissed. The transaction was complete. "Excuse me," I said, placing my napkin on my chair. "I need to use the restroom." In the marble and mahogany stall, the silence was absolute. I pulled out the phone. The lock screen showed a single notification, an automated system email. Subject: Admin update. Family capital access. Source: Norreply at Private Equity, admin. Com. Body: Your access to the Family Capital Group has been revoked by the administrator, E. Harlow. I leaned my head against the cool marble partition. E. Harlow, my mother. She must have had the request queued up, hitting send under the table with her thumb while she told me how strong I was. The efficiency was almost impressive. I deleted the notification, took a single, deep, shuddering breath, fixed my lipstick. The face in the mirror was pale, but the eyes were steady. This was data. Just data. I returned to the table. Dessert menus were being distributed. "The creme brulee here is passable," Eleanor offered, not looking at me. "But their panna cotta is tragic." "I'll just have coffee," I said. "Black?" As the waiter turned to leave, my phone buzzed again. A different vibration. Not the low thrum of an email, the short, sharp pulse of a text message. I glanced down. It was from Mom. The screen was aggressively bright in the dim restaurant, a blue iMessage bubble. "Terminate Tessa before her options vest at 4 p.m. Make HR move." The blood didn't drain from my face. It froze in my veins. The clatter of the restaurant, the low murmur of conversation, the faint sound of a distant piano. It all vanished. There was only the white glow of the screen. I read the text again, and a third time. Terminate Tessa. Not let go, not restructure, not downsize. Terminate, a word reserved for pests, for hostile actors, for infections, before her options vest at 4 p.m. My hand was perfectly still. I could feel the thud of my heart against my ribs. A dull, heavy hammer. The options. My 4-year cliff. The equity grant I had negotiated in lieu of a higher salary. The one I had saved the company millions in potential fines to earn. They vested next week, Tuesday, at 4 p.m., a date I knew like my own birthday, a date worth, by my last calculation, $1.4 million. Make HR move. I looked up, my eyes moving from the glowing screen to the woman across the table. My mother was sipping her Sauvignon Blanc, her gaze fixed on something over my shoulder. She was serene. She was discussing reupholstering the chairs in the sunroom. I looked back at the screen. The text bubble was right there, sitting innocently below a "Happy birthday last month. Darling, let's celebrate soon." Message from her. She had made a mistake, a catastrophic, world-ending, beautiful mistake. This message, with its cold corporate brutality, was not meant for me. Who was it for? Make HR move. It had to be someone with that power, someone who would take an order from my mother, a non-employee, a board member's wife, and execute it without question. Markham, David Markham, the CFO, her ally on the finance committee, Her partner in restructuring, the intended recipient, she had typed my name in the toe field instead of his. My brain, my beautiful, cold compliance brain, took over. The part of me that was hurt, the daughter who had just been financially and emotionally guillotined, receded. The professional stepped forward. My movements were economical, precise, smooth. My thumb went to the volume up button, tap. My index finger went to the side button, tap. The screen flashed white. Screenshot captured. I swiped down from the top of the screen, tap the little airplane icon. Airplane mode. On. All digital tethers cut. The message was now a fly in amber, trapped on my device, unable to be recalled, unable to be unseen, unable to be deleted from the server side by a panicked sender. It was mine. I placed my fork down on the dessert plate, the tines clicking softly against the porcelain. The sound was deafening in the sudden, sharp focus of my mind. "Is something wrong, dear?" my mother asked. Her eyes flicked to my phone, then back to my face, a flicker of, what? Annoyance that I was on my phone? Or the first cold seed of panic? Did she realize? I looked at her, really looked at her. The practiced smile, the pearls that cost more than my annual salary, the bottomless, casual entitlement, the woman who had just tried to incinerate my career and my entire financial future, all between the main course and dessert. I felt a strange, cold calm settle over me. The hurt was still there, a deep, icy bedrock, but on top of it was something new, something hard and sharp, clarity. I smiled. It was a small smile, but it was the first genuine expression I'd had all night. "No, Mom, nothing at all." My voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "Thank you for the clarity." Her brow furrowed, the first unplanned expression of the evening. "Clarity on what?" "On the new financial plan," I said, my voice smooth as silk. "It's very clear. You're right. I'm practical." Arthur nodded, satisfied. "Good. Glad that's settled." He signaled for the check. The meeting adjourned. They saw a daughter accepting her dismissal. I saw a war room. In my mind, the opulent dining room dissolved. The heavy linen tablecloth, stained with a single drop of balsamic, became a whiteboard. The floral centerpiece was gone, replaced by a timeline. Objective: survive termination, secure vested options, expose fraudulent interference and breach of fiduciary duty. Timeline: T-. I checked my watch. 7:15 p.m. Thursday. The deadline was Tuesday. 4:00 p.m. I had less than 5 business days. Personnel: hostile, Eleanor Harlow. Instigator: Arthur Harlow. Co-conspirator: David Markham. CFO: instrument. HR department: weapon. Personnel: assets: me, my access, my knowledge, my brain, and now, Exhibit A. My father paid the bill. We stood up. The ritual of air kisses and false pleasantries commenced. "Drive safe, Tessa," Arthur said, patting my shoulder, a gesture of final dismissal. "Good night, darling," Eleanor said, her cheek cool and powdered against mine. I walked out of the Willow Court, the warm yellow light spilling onto the dark, wet pavement. I stepped out of the amber and into the cold, clear night. I did not go home. I went to my office. I was the head of compliance and a termination, especially one ordered by a non-employee board member's wife to the CFO to manipulate an equity vesting schedule, was a compliance failure of catastrophic proportions. It was an event, and I was, first and foremost, a regulator. I sat in my car in the dark, silent parking garage, the engine off, the screenshot glowed on my screen. Terminate Tessa before her options vest at 4 p.m. "Okay," I whispered to the darkness. "Let's make a move." The dinner was over. The audit had just begun. My office in the Norhaven building is cold. It's 10:23 p.m. The building's HVAC system dials back after 8, saving costs. My fingers are chilled, resting on the keyboard. But my blood is moving fast. fueled by the adrenaline spike from the Willow Court parking lot. I'm on the 14th floor, the compliance department, my domain. Down in the main atrium, 19 floors below, the wall is dominated by a 30-foot photograph. It's the official portrait of the Norhaven founders, a title my father, Arthur, insisted on. Even though he didn't found the company, he acquired it in a hostile takeover in the late 90s. In the photo, Arthur looks visionary, hand on his chin, staring at a future only he can see. Eleanor, my mother, is beside him, all pearls and strategic, elegant support, and Dahlia, my sister, is there, laughing, captured, mid-brilliant insight. It's a masterpiece of corporate branding. The Harlow family, indivisible from the Norhaven brand. I'm not in that photo. I'm in the smaller, candid-style shots that line the hallway leading to the cafeteria. Me, at an all-hands meeting, holding a binder. Me, in a hard hat during a site inspection, holding a clipboard. Me, the functional, necessary, and utterly unglamorous cog. It was always this way. My entire life, I was defined by my utility. Dahlia was the investment. I was the insurance. The terms were used openly, with the casual, unthinking cruelty of the wealthy. Dahlia is the investment, my father would say at holiday dinners, raising a glass. Tessa is the insurance. An investment requires capital. It needs to be nurtured, celebrated, and showcased. When Dahlia decided college wasn't creatively fulfilling, she was given a European gap year funded by the family capital account, the same account I was just removed from. She explored museums in Florence, sketched in the south of France, and found her creativity was paramount. Insurance is a sunk cost. It's a contingency plan. You pay the premiums grudgingly, file it away, and pray you never need it. I didn't get a gap year. I got an academic scholarship to a state school, which I leveraged into a law degree, also on scholarship. When I passed the bar, my father didn't throw a party. He said, "Good. Norhaven's vendor contracts are a mess. You can start Monday." I wasn't celebrated. I was deployed. I settled into my ergonomic chair, the silence of the office humming around me. My mother famously hated this space. She'd visited once, her stilettos sinking into the practical, stain-resistant carpet. "Darling, it's so gray," she'd said, wrinkling her nose. "All this compliance, it just kills creativity." The irony of that statement was so sharp it could draw blood. 3 years ago, her precious investment nearly bankrupted the company. Dahlia, in a brief and disastrous stint as a junior marketing VP, greenlit a data harvesting campaign that violated FTC regulations and the EU's GDPR in 12 different ways. It was creative. It was disruptive. It was also wildly illegal. When the whistleblower warning landed, it didn't go to Dahlia or my father. It came to me, the insurance. I worked for 72 hours straight, with no sleep, fueled by stale coffee and sheer cold panic. I dug into server logs, rewrote the entire data privacy protocol, self-reported the non-compliance to the regulators with a remediation plan already in place, and managed to negotiate the fine down from a company-killing 8-figure sum to a painful, but survivable, 6-figure slap on the wrist. I saved the legacy. My father's response? Well, that was a mess. See that it doesn't happen again. Dahlia's response? She complained to my mother that I had stifled her process and killed the buzz of her campaign. I wasn't thanked. I was blamed for the rain. My role as insurance wasn't just professional, it was financial. 4 years ago, my mother's personal American Express black card was compromised. That was the term she used. Compromised. The truth, which I found later, was that she had funneled $85,000 in consulting fees to a shell company run by a spiritual advisor in Sedona. The advisor was a fraud. The vendor threatened a lawsuit, and the whole thing was about to trigger a credit review that would have jeopardized my father's pending marina expansion deal. They didn't have the liquid cash, or rather, they didn't want to pull from their investments. I was 27. I had just received a significant bonus from the law firm I worked at before Norhaven. I didn't offer to help. I was summoned. "Tessa, be practical," Arthur had said, his voice laced with that familiar tone of disappointment, as if I had created the problem. "This is a family matter. We can't have this distraction. Your credit is clean. You handle this, we'll pay you back, of course." I was still young enough to believe the pay you back part. I was still desperate enough for their approval. I liquidated my 401k and wired the $85,000. I paid their secret. The repayment never came when I brought it up. 6 months later, my mother looked at me with genuine confusion. "Don't be crass, Tessa. That was your familial obligation." I swallowed the loss. I worked weekends to rebuild my savings. I filed it away. But the credit card was just the appetizer. The data center was the main course. It was 2022. Norhaven was making its big push into cloud infrastructure. It was a massive capital expenditure. They were leasing $5 million worth of high-density server hardware. The bank, seeing the company's already leveraged position, demanded a personal guarantee on the lease. A personal guarantee, a bad boy clause. If the company defaulted, the bank could come after the guarantor's personal assets, their house, their savings, their wages, everything. Arthur's assets were already pledged for the marina. Eleanor's credit was, as she put it, too complex. Dahlia, the investment, had no assets to her name, only expenses. So they came to the 14th floor, to my gray practical office. "Tessa, it's just a formality," my father said, sitting on the edge of my desk, radiating false paternal warmth. "The company's assets cover it tenfold. The underwriters just need a clean name on the dotted line, a backstop. The insurance. It's just a signature, darling," my mother added, smiling from the doorway. "It means nothing." It meant everything. It meant my entire future, my condo, my savings, my clean credit score that I had built myself, scholarship by scholarship, paycheck by paycheck. They were asking me to pledge all of it against their $5 million hardware bet. I was 29. I was tired, and I was still, pathetically, clinging to the hope that this final act of service would be the one that earned me a seat at the table. I signed the guarantee. I walked out of the conference room feeling hollow. I looked at the pen in my hand, and in that moment, the daughter finally died, and the auditor took her place. That was the day I truly became head of compliance. They thought I was insuring the company. They were wrong. I was insuring myself, from them. I went back to my office that night, just like tonight, and I started to build a file, an archive, my own insurance policy. I set up an encrypted, air-gapped hard drive, locked in a safe deposit box they didn't know about. I started saving everything. The email from Arthur, asking me to soften the language on the FTC audit report, the wire transfer confirmation for the $85,000 familial obligation, the expense reports from Dahlia's creative campaign, the ones I'd had to bury, every vendor contract, every access log, every "please handle this" text from my mother, and the centerpiece of my collection, a notarized copy of the $5 million data center guarantee, with my signature at the bottom. I saved them not for blackmail. I saved them for the same reason I kept fire extinguishers in the server rooms, for the day the fire came. Now, sitting in my office, the glow of my monitor illuminating the screenshot of my mother's text, I knew the fire was here. Terminate Tessa before her options vest at 4 p.m. This wasn't just disowning me. This was a calculated, financial execution. They weren't just cutting me from a future inheritance. They were trying to steal $1.4 million of my past earnings. And the most beautiful, most horrifying part? They were trying to terminate me for cause. I knew that would be the method, while my name was still on that $5 million guarantee. They weren't just disowning a daughter. They were setting up their insurance policy to take the fall, leaving me jobless, optionless, and personally liable for their corporate debt. I looked at the text. I looked at my locked file cabinet. I never wanted their money. I never wanted the inheritance. I just wanted the truth. I wanted the facts to be seen in the same bright, public light they used to display their fictions. I wanted accountability. Norhaven's annual shareholders meeting is next Tuesday. It is our biggest event of the year. It's held in the main atrium, right under that 30-foot portrait of the founders. My father gives the keynote. My mother sits in the front row, and it is, by SEC regulation, live-streamed to all investors, globally. I open my locked personal notebook, a simple, black moleskin. On the first page, I had written a sentence, right after I signed that guarantee. I traced the words with my finger. If they go public with cruelty, I go public with facts. My mother's text was the fact. My father's disinheritance was the cruelty. And the shareholders' meeting? That was the public. They had just built their own stage. They thought they were canceling my inheritance. They had no idea they were about to vest my real one. My role at Norhaven Brands is misunderstood, and I have always preferred it that way. My father sees me as the company janitor, cleaning up messes. My mother sees me as a data entry clerk, a functionary. Even the C-suite sees compliance as a bottleneck, a necessary evil that generates red tape and slows down creativity. They are all wrong. Compliance is not a department. It is an administrative privilege. My position isn't a title. It's a set of master keys. I am not the janitor. I am the architect, the one who holds the blueprints, the wiring diagrams, and the master override codes for the entire building. My team and I are responsible for the integrity of the system. This means I control, or at the very least have irrevocable audit access to, every critical data stream. I control the approval flows for vendor payments. I control the access logs for who enters what database, when, and from where. I am the sole administrator for the chain of custody protocols that govern how evidence is handled. While my father, as chairman, can give an order, I am the one who can see how the system executes that order. He sees the public-facing website. I see the server logs. This is my arsenal, and tonight, my mother just gave me the coordinates of the target. I swipe my access card. The elevator sings its ascent. 14th floor. The doors open to darkness. My office is a glass box overlooking the rest of the department's cubicles. I don't turn on the lights. The glow of the triple monitor array is all I need. My password is 48 characters long, a mix of a legal precedent, a line of code, and a date only I would remember. I'm in. I bring up my primary compliance dashboard. It's a custom-built interface. My God view. It's not pretty, but it's powerful. It shows me every high-privilege administrative action across the company's key platforms in the last 90 days. It flags unusual requests, failed login attempts, privilege escalations, and after-hours activity. My eyes scan the feed. My pulse is a flat, steady metronome. I am not a daughter. I am an auditor beginning an investigation. The text from my mother, Exhibit A, gives me specific keywords. Terminate. Options vest. HR. 4 p.m. I start with the Human Resources Information System, the HRIS. This is where all performance reviews, salary data, termination drafts, and employee records are held. I have read only audit access. They can't see that I'm looking. But the system logs that the head of compliance is performing a standard audit. It's the perfect cover. I query the audit trail for my own employee ID. I am looking for any activity in the last 24 hours. There. My breath doesn't hitch. It just stops. At 3:48 p.m. this afternoon, hours before dinner, hours before the text, a new document was created in my personnel file by Sarah Jenkins, the HR manager. Document type: Performance Improvement Plan, PIP. Document title: T. Harlow Performance Review, Q3. DocsEX Status, Draft. A PIP, the first, necessary, legal step to firing someone for cause. It is the corporate executioner's opening move. In my 4 years as head of compliance, I have never had so much as a verbal warning. My last performance review, 6 weeks ago, was exceeds expectations and came with a token 3% raise. A PIP created out of thin air, hours before they planned to disinherit me. This is premeditation. I dig deeper. I look at the document's metadata. Who else accessed this file? 3:49 p.m. File viewed by D. Markham, CFO. 3:51 p.m. File viewed by E. Harlow Guest, Eleanor Harlow. My mother, a non-employee, a guest on the system with special board-level privileges, was reviewing my fabricated HR file. This is not a family matter. This is a gross, actionable breach of fiduciary duty and corporate governance. I screenshot the access log. I save the immutable PDF of the draft PEP. The draft itself is comically vague, full of corporate buzzwords, lacks strategic alignment, fails to integrate cross-departmental synergies. Communication style not conducive to creative environment. It's my mother's voice, translated into HR speak. Compliance kills creativity. I move on. Keyword: terminate. That means IT access. I pull up the IT service management queue. I query all urgent tickets filed today. My blood runs cold. It's not a surge of fear. It's the cold, hard certainty of a case file clicking shut. Ticket 8891B. Filed, 3:55 p.m. Requester, D. Markham, CFO. Priority, urgent. Subject, prep for employee separation. Body, please queue an account termination script for EOD Tuesday, 10/29. Target, T. Harlow, EID, 89012. Hold for final voice auth from me. This is a sensitive HR matter. 3:55 p.m. 5 minutes after my mother reviewed my PIP. 1 minute after the CFO reviewed it. They built the entire termination mechanism. They fabricated the cause. They queued the IT ticket to have my accounts locked. Tuesday, EOD. My options vest at 4 p.m. EOD is 5 p.m. Wait, no, my mother's text. Before her options vest at 4 p.m. The ticket says EOD. The text says before 4 p.m. They had a plan. And my mother's text was a change order. She was moving up the execution. She wanted it done before my equity became mine, invalidating the CFO's original EOD ticket. The text was her getting sloppy, trying to micromanage the hit. And in her haste, she sent the kill order to the victim instead of the assassin. This is it. This is the entire case. The text is the intent. The PIP and the IT ticket are the conspiracy. Now, I deploy the arsenal. My first move is not offensive. It is defensive. It is the most powerful tool I have. I open a new incident file in my compliance portal. Incident type: hostile actor, data integrity breach. Subject: emergency legal hold. Matter comp L239. I type a single command: initiate legal hold, T. Harlow. I add the other parties: D. Markham, S. Jenkins, E. Harlow Guest. I hit enter. Across the Norhaven servers, an invisible, instantaneous net just fell. This command flags every single document, email, calendar entry, and chat log associated with these individuals and places them in a legally protected, immutable state. Nothing can be deleted, not by them, not by the system administrator, not even by me. An attempt to delete an email will only flag the deletion. The email itself will be preserved in the holding vault. They are now legally required to preserve the very evidence that will incinerate them. My second move: the screenshot on my phone is good. The server-side metadata is better, but I need a copy outside the Norhaven ecosystem. I activate my worm protocol. Write once, read many. I package the evidence: the screenshot of the text, the PDF of the backdated PIP, the HRIS access logs, the IT ticket, 8891B. I run a hash algorithm on the package, creating a unique digital fingerprint. I export the entire immutable file. It doesn't go to my hard drive. It doesn't go to my email. It goes, via a secure, encrypted tunnel, to a third-party digital escrow service, a neutral, unassailable data vault used by law firms and federal agencies. It is now legally in escrow, its chain of custody perfect. Even if they fire me and seize my laptop, the evidence is already gone. It's safe. My third move, the notification. I open my corporate email. I draft a new message. To Robert, thorn@norhaven.com, General Counsel, CC, Audit Committee Chair, Norhaven. Com. Subject, Notice of Preservation. Incident Comp L 239. I keep the body terse, clinical, no emotion, no accusations, just the law. Robert. Pursuant to Standard Compliance Protocol and SEC Regulations 17A4, a legal hold, Incident Comp L 239, has been placed on all materials, digital and physical, pertaining to employee Tessa Harlow, CFO David Markham, HR Manager Sarah Jenkins, and Guest Administrator Eleanor Harlow, effective 10:48 p.m. Thursday, October 24th. The hold is initiated in response to a direct, non-arm's-length attempt to interfere with an employee equity vesting schedule and the creation of backdated, fraudulent HR documentation to support a for-cause termination. Your legal and fiduciary duty is to ensure 100% preservation of these materials for impending review. This is not a request. Tessa Harlow, Head of Compliance. I hit send in the General Counsel's office, 5 floors down. A bomb just went off. Robert Thorn, a man who lives in mortal fear of an SEC inquiry, is now legally bound to protect my evidence from my parents. He is now my unwilling accomplice. He has no choice. My fourth move, the witness list. This isn't just about data. It's about people. I open a new document, encrypted on my personal drive. Potential witnesses. Case Comp L 239. Sarah Jenkins, HR Manager. The instrument. She created the false PAP. She's weak. She took an order from my mother or the CFO. She will fold under pressure to save her job. Greg Mills, CFO's assistant. David Markham's executive assistant. A nervous, ambitious man I've seen flinch when Markham enters a room. He books the meetings. He knows about the shadow spreadsheets my mother uses. He is the weak link in the finance department. Raj Sharma, IT Security. The admin who received ticket 8891B. He's a stickler for process. He will have noted the unusual nature of the request. A CFO ordering a termination, no HR. He will be a perfect neutral witness to the technical facts. Robert Thorn, General Counsel. Now a material witness. He has received the notice. His response to it is now part of the evidence trail. The case file is built. The evidence is secure. The legal traps are set. The cold, precise rage that has fueled the last hour finally recedes, replaced by a crystalline, absolute focus. They were building a cage for me. They spent all afternoon assembling the parts, a false HR report, an IT execution order, a family dinner to deliver the emotional blow. And in one text message, my mother handed me the key. My phone screen lights up. 10:52 p.m., a new email notification. From Annual Meeting Coordinator. Subject, Reminder. Shareholder Q&A submissions due. The annual shareholders meeting, next Tuesday, the day they plan to execute me, the day my options vest, the day the entire company, all our investors, and the financial press will be watching a global live stream. I look at the case file I've built. I look at the meeting reminder. The stage is set. The script is written. My evidence is the star. I click the link to the Q&A submission form. Name, Tessa Harlow. Affiliation, shareholder and employee, head of compliance. Topic, request to present a 5-minute supplemental slide, S14, regarding a critical governance failure and non-arm's-length financial interference. The plan is no longer just to survive. The plan is to go public. The legal hold is a tripwire. I spent all of Thursday night securing the perimeter. Now, it is Friday morning, and I am walking into the office not as a victim, but as a forensic investigator. The building's systems are no longer my workplace. They are my crime scene. My first act is to analyze the weapon. The iMessage screenshot is damning. The metadata is definitive. My compliance privileges give me access to the company's mobile device management (MDM) server. My mother's phone, the Harlow Guest device, is a corporate asset, and its logs are company property. I pull the raw data for the message sent at 7:58 p.m. Time: 19:58:04. East Time. Device: iPhone 15 Pro Max. Serial EHG001. IP address: 10.1.19.42. Location: Norhaven Tower, 19th floor, C-suite. She sent the text from inside the building, during our dinner. She must have excused herself to powder her nose, just as I did. The hypocrisy is so perfect, it's almost elegant. But the location is the key. The 19th floor, the executive wing. My next stop is the building's calendar and resource management system. I check my mother's guest calendar. It's predictably blank, save for one entry. Private dinner, Harlow. From 7 p.m. onward. Useless. She covers her tracks. So I check the calendar of her co-conspirator. I query David Markham's, the CFO, calendar. 6 o'clock p.m. 8 o'clock p.m. Private meeting. E.H. Conf room 19B. E.H. Eleanor Harlow. I cross-reference the room itself. Conference room 19B. Booking owner: Greg Mills. Exec, asked to CFO. Attendees: D. Markham. E. Harlow, guest. Purpose: confidential financial review. My mother, Eleanor Harlow, sent the text, "Terminate Tessa," at 7:58 p.m., while she was physically sitting in a confidential financial review with the chief financial officer. This wasn't just a misdirected text, it was a live order, given mid-conspiracy. The screenshot is the smoking gun. The calendar log is the photo of my mother and the CFO holding it, together. But this isn't enough. A good audit establishes a pattern. This proves the event, but I need to prove the intent was premeditated. I go back to the compliance archive. The MDM server only logs message activity, but the e-discovery module, My Kingdom, captures message content for privileged accounts. I have the legal authority to review communication between a guest administrator, E. Harlow, and a C-suite officer, D. Markham, on matters flagged for financial irregularity. My new legal hold, Incident Comp L239. Is that flag? I am my own gatekeeper. I unlock the archive. I pull the entire iMessage and Signal thread between David Markham and Eleanor Harlow for the past 60 days. My blood doesn't boil. It turns to ice. The thread is a cascade of corporate malfeasance. They aren't just conspiring about me. They're conspiring about everything. They're discussing how to creatively reclassify capital expenditures to boost the quarterly earnings report. They're talking about a problematic vendor who won't give them a kickback. And then, I find it, a thread from 3 weeks ago. Markham, CFO. Eleanor, the TH, equity. The 4 o'clock p.m. vesting on 10/29 is hard-coded in the grant. I cannot delay it without triggering an SEC audit. The risk is too high. Mom, E. Harlow. Risk is a cost of doing business. David, I seem to recall you approving Dahlia's marketing budget. We are a team. Find a way. Mom, E. Harlow. Or, we find cause. A for cause termination nullifies the grant. Correct? Markham, CFO. Correct, but cause must be documented. Mom, E. Harlow. Then document it. My hands are perfectly steady on the keyboard. This is the origin. This is the genesis of the backdated PIP, the IT ticket, the dinner at Willow Court. It was all a coordinated effort to fabricate cause. I scroll down. I find another text from Markham. Last week. Markham, CFO. Alternative. We could move her vesting to Q4. I can claim it's part of the new family equity realignment. That might be cleaner. Mom, E. Harlow. No, Too slow. She'll fight it. The termination is cleaner. Handle it. My mother. The corporate executioner. But a new phrase has entered the lexicon. Family equity. It's the second time I've seen it. Markham used it in the text. And, wait, I rewind the tape in my head. At dinner, my father, he said, "A new family financial plan." No. Markham's text said, "Family equity." I search my mother's texts again. Family equity. There, a text to Markham from last month. Mom, E. Harlow. David, please update the family equity plan. With the Q3 projections, I want to see the new numbers before we decide on TH. It's a file name. My fingers fly. I am now querying the company's entire cloud server. OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams. I am running a global e-discovery search for that exact file name, Family Equity Plan XLSX. The system finds it in seconds. The file exists. It's on David Markham's personal OneDrive. Owner, D. Markham. Shared with E. Harlow Guest. G. Mills. Exec. Ast. A. Harlow, Chairman. It's locked. Access denied. I am Tessa Harlow, Head of Compliance. I am the Global Administrator for e-discovery protocols. Access denied is a suggestion, not a barrier. I open the admin console. Event. E-discovery audit. Incident Comp L239. Action. Grant read-only. Access to global admin. T. Harlow. Reason. Investigation of financial malfeasance. The system logs my action. It's transparent. It's by the book. It's unassailable. I click. The lock dissolves. I open the file. It is not a simple spreadsheet. It is a masterpiece of shadow governance. It's the real set of books. It details how my parents have been using corporate funds as their personal piggy bank. Shell companies for consulting, like the one that scammed my mother, inflated marketing budgets that funnel to Dahlia. And then I see the tab. The tab is labeled Equity Consolidation, Q4 Plan. I click it. My heart stops. It's a list of all major equity holders, and there, in row 14, is my name. Column A. T. Harlow, Vest 1029. Column B. Grant Value, Unvested, $100,000. Column C. Action Item, Terminate for Cause, PAP 1024. Column D. Status, In Progress, DIM, EH. Column E. Savings, SUL, 1.4 mm. Column F. Reallocation, DH. Signing bonus, VP strategy. I read it once, twice, a third time. This is not a disinheritance. This is a theft. They are firing me to steal my $1.4 million in earned equity, money I took in lieu of salary for 4 years of 80-hour weeks, and they are reallocating it to my sister, Dahlia, as a signing bonus for a VP job she hasn't even started. This is the motive. The text was the intent. The spreadsheet is the confession. My mind is a steel trap now. The pieces are snapping together so fast. They're striking sparks. The PP. Sarah Jenkins in HR. I go back to the HRIS. I look at the audit log for the PIP again. 3:30 p.m. Email received by S. Jenkins from D. Markham, CFO. Subject, TH. Performance. 3:31 p.m. Attachment. TH. Talking points. Doc X. Opened by S. Jenkins. 3:48 p.m. T. Harlow Performance. Review Q3 Doc A. Created by S. Jenkins. The CFO sent her the talking points. I use my admin access to pull that email. Sarah, as we discussed on the phone, please draft the PIP for Tessa Harlow. This is a sensitive directive from the chairman's office. Use the talking points attached. Please send the draft to E. Harlow for review and approval before finalizing. This does not go through the normal reporting chain. Sarah Jenkins, the HR manager, took a termination directive from the CFO based on fabricated talking points and sent the draft. Not to me, not to my actual line manager, the general counsel, but to my mother, a non-employee. I pinned the email to my case file. Non-arm's length interference. This isn't a one-time thing. This is a pattern. I need to prove my mother's improper influence is systemic. I query the email server for all messages sent to my department's budget approval group in the last year. I find the final approval email for my own department's operating budget, sent by the CFO. I open the email's raw metadata, the header. I check the BCC, blind carbon copy field. BCC, Harlow Guest, Norhaven.com. My mother, she has been a hidden, invisible signatory on my own department's budget for a year. She, who believes compliance kills creativity, has been my shadow boss, approving my spreadsheets, my resources, my staffing. She has been slowly starving my department from the inside. This is the pattern of improper influence. I have one last piece to find. The spreadsheet said VP strategy. I go back to the HRS. I query all draft offer letters. I search for Dahlia Harlow. There it is. Offer letter draft D. Harlow VP strategy. DocxEX created. 10/23, Wednesday. Status, pending legal review. I open it, a formal offer of employment. Dear Dahlia, we are thrilled to welcome you to Norhaven Brands as our new Vice President of Strategy. Start date, November 1st, 2025. Signing bonus, $400,000. The exact amount they were stealing from me. This is it, the final, clinching piece of the puzzle, the entire conspiracy, from inception to execution to beneficiary, all laid bare in the company's own logs. I close my dashboards. The sun is streaming into my office. It's Saturday morning. I didn't realize I'd been here all night. I spend the next 8 hours doing what I do best. I write. I'm not writing a letter. I am not writing a resignation. I am drafting an 8-page, single-spaced, heavily footnoted legal memorandum. Title, Memorandum, A Pattern of Improper Influence, Breach of Fiduciary Duty, and Conspiracy to Commit Financial Malfeasance regarding EID 89012, Tia Harlow. I attach every piece of evidence as an appendix. Appendix A, the iMessage, 7:58 p.m. Appendix B, the calendar logs, Conf Room 19B. Appendix C, the text threads, Markham Harlow. Appendix D, the Family Equity Plan, XLSX, Row 14. Appendix E, the HR Directive, email to S. Jenkins. Appendix F, the Budget BCC log. Appendix G, the Dahlia Harlow offer letter, 1.4 M. I save the final PDF. I run the hash algorithm. I upload it to the Worm escrow vault, right next to the initial evidence. The case is built. The evidence is secured. The annual shareholders meeting is in 3 days. They wanted a financial execution. They are about to get a public execution. My parents believe I am practical. They are correct. They use the word insurance as an insult, a way to diminish me, to define my role as a functional, unloved contingency plan. They never once stopped to consider what insurance actually is. Insurance is not a person, it is a contract. It is a binding agreement that in the event of a catastrophic failure, a price will be paid. It is a strategy built on anticipating the absolute worst-case scenario. When I signed my name to that $5 million data center guarantee, pledging my personal, self-built financial future to backstop their creative expansion, I officially designated my family as a catastrophic failure risk. And so, as the insurance, I insured myself. 3 months ago, long before the text, long before the disinheritance dinner, I formed an entity. It was my first act of true independence. It's a Delaware LLC, anonymous, sterile, and quiet. It's called Thayer Ridge Holdings. It was my lifeboat. A legal structure completely firewalled from the Harlow name, funded by the bonus I received before joining Norhaven and, poetically, the $85,000 familial obligation I knew they would never repay. My family thought I was just sitting in my gray office on the 14th floor, checking their spreadsheets. They were wrong. I was checking their risk profile. Norhaven Brands is a public company, but it's leveraged to the hilt. My father's marina expansion, Dahlia's creative marketing failures, they cost cash. To fund this, Norhaven issued $150 million in unsecured corporate bonds 2 years ago. They are high yield, which is a polite way of saying they are high risk, because of the company's unstable leadership and questionable financials, which I knew were questionable because I saw the shadow spreadsheets. Those bonds trade on the secondary market at a deep discount. Investors saw risk. I saw an opportunity. For the last 3 months, Thayer Ridge Holdings has been quietly buying that debt. I am not a major shareholder, I am a minor one, but my LLC, Thayer Ridge, has become a significant creditor. I own $18 million of Norhaven's bond debt, purchased for pennies on the dollar. They think they are dealing with their daughter. They are, in fact, dealing with their lender. A shareholder, even a major one, can be ignored. A creditor cannot, especially a creditor who has read the contract. I spent a weekend, after signing the data center guarantee, reading the 480-page bond indenture. It's the master contract between Norhaven and its lenders. Buried deep in Section 8.04, I found the covenant I was looking for. It's a change of control trigger. It's a standard clause, usually meant to protect bondholders if the company is sold, but this one, drafted by sloppy lawyers, was beautifully, fatally broad. It stated that a default event could be triggered by any illicit or non-arm's-length managerial interference, conspiracy, or act of bad faith by an officer or board member, or their designated representative, that fundamentally alters the governance structure or results in the misappropriation of corporate assets. My mother, a designated representative of the chairman, conspiring with the CFO, an officer, to fabricate HR documents, a bad faith act, to terminate another officer, me, to steal $1.4 million in equity, a misappropriation of corporate assets, and hand it to her daughter, a non-arm's length transaction. They didn't just give me a reason to be angry, they gave me a legal trigger. They handed me the keys to the company's financial prison. The 8-page memorandum I wrote all night on Saturday wasn't just for my records. It was an affidavit. On Monday morning, I am not in my Norhaven office. I am in a glass conference room on the 54th floor of the Hancock Tower, at the offices of Foley, Shaw & Klein, my real lawyers. The engagement letter was signed the day I formed Thayer Ridge. The evidence is unassailable. Tessa, says Mr. Shaw, a man who looks like he eats legal briefs for breakfast. The metadata logs, the spreadsheet, it's a perfect chain of custody. What is your desired outcome? Accountability, I say. But first, insurance. At 10:00 a.m., a courier from Foley, Shaw & Klein, delivers my 8-page memorandum and all 52 pages of appendices, the iMessage, the spreadsheet, the offer letter, to Wilmington Trust, the designated trustee for the Norhaven Bond Series. The trustee is the legal representative for all bondholders. They now have a fiduciary duty to act on the information I have provided. My problem is now their $150 million problem. The annual shareholders meeting is tomorrow, Tuesday. My family sees it as their stage. They have no idea I have spent the last 48 hours rigging it to blow. My submitted Q&A request was approved. Of course, it was a procedural formality. Ms. Harlow, your 5-minute request is approved and slated for the main Q&A block. Please see attached slide template S14. The template they sent was blank, a placeholder. Mine is not. I go to the Norhaven atrium, where the AV team is running final checks. I find Brenda, the head of internal AV. She's stressed, headset askew, drinking a Red Bull. Brenda, I say, and she jumps. I'm using my head of compliance voice. It's a voice that terrifies people. I'm flagging a potential data integrity issue with the main presentation file. I need to run a quick validation check on the master deck from the control booth PC. It's a compliance protocol for forward-looking statements. Now? She groans. We're in final render. Now, Brenda. Or I can't sign off on the presentation's 10K compliance. Your call. She leads me to the control booth. Fine. Don't touch the soundboard. I sit at the master terminal. I plug in a black, encrypted USB drive. I run a fake scan script, a simple batch file that prints text on the screen. While the progress bar scrolls, I open the master PowerPoint deck. I find the blank placeholder, S14. I delete it. I drag my real slide into its place. It's a simple, brutal slide. At the top, in 72-point font, non-arm's length interference and asset misappropriation. Below it, 2 images. On the left, the Family Equity Plan, XLSX screenshot, with row 14 and the 1.4 MA savings highlighted in red. On the right, the iMessage. Terminate Tessa before her options vest at 4 p.m. I log out. The scan script finishes. All clean. Brenda, thanks. You're good to go. The evidence is now loaded into their own gun. Next, the cameras. The meeting will be live-streamed. But the moment I take the mic, my father or mother will signal the in-house director to cut my feed. I am not letting them control the narrative. I use the Thayer Ridge corporate account. I hire an external AV vendor, the same one who handles our overflow press for earnings calls. Thayer Ridge Holdings requires a dedicated archival feed of the Norhaven meeting, I write. This is a private investor service. I give them their instructions. 3 cameras, camera 1 on the podium, camera 2 in a fixed medium shot on the C-suite front row. Mr. Harlow, Mrs. Harlow, Mr. Markham. Camera 3 is a fixed, tight, unwavering shot, locked onto the main presentation screen. No cuts, no zooms. Record the screen. I want a clean, uninterrupted feed of the data being presented. Start rolling at 9:00 a.m. and do not stop until the meeting is adjourned. I am buying my own, unblinking witness. Finally, the guests. The room will be full of my parents' allies, institutional investors, and passive employees. I need validators. I need an expert jury. Thayer Ridge Holdings, as a significant institutional creditor, has guest credentials. I invite 3 people. Guest 1, Dr. Annabelle Lee. She is the PhD in digital forensics from MIT who provided the sworn, notarized affidavit, Appendix G of my memo, confirming the authenticity and perfect chain of custody of the iMessage metadata, the server logs, and the spreadsheet. Guest 2, Michael Parrish. He is the former head of HR compliance for our largest competitor, a man who wrote the book on 4-cause termination protocols. He reviewed my case file and provided an expert opinion, Appendix H, stating this was a textbook case of bad faith conspiracy and fraudulent documentation. Guest 3, Mr. Kalin, from Wilmington Trust. He is not my guest. He is attending as a representative of the bondholders, holding a notice of potential default in his briefcase. He has already confirmed his attendance with our general counsel, Robert Thorne, who is, I am sure, currently sweating through his suit. They are my jury, and they will be sitting in the front row. It is now Monday night, 10:00 p.m., the day before. I am in my dark office on the 14th floor. One last time, I look at my calendar for tomorrow. Tuesday, October 29th. There are 2 entries. 9 a.m., annual shareholders meeting. 4 p.m., allow under block, options vest. I open the 4 p.m. entry. I delete the system-generated text. I type 2 new words, my own motto, my own promise. A new entry appears on my calendar, visible to anyone, like my mother, who has access. 4 p.m., vest. 4:01 p.m., truth. The stage is set. The traps are laid. The audience is invited. All I have to do now is walk into the light. The Norhaven corporate atrium is an architectural marvel of glass and steel. it's also a terrible place to hide. It's Tuesday, 9:00 a.m., the annual shareholders' meeting. The atrium is flooded with cold, bright, unforgiving white light, professionally set for the broadcast. 800 shareholders, analysts, and employees are crammed into rows of temporary chairs. The air hums with the sound of quiet conversations and the shuffling of glossy annual reports. At the front, dominating the stage, is the 30-foot founder's portrait, my family's monument to their own fiction. I see them all. My mother, Eleanor, is in the front row, center. She is immaculate in a cream-colored Chanel suit, the picture of serene, untouchable matriarchal power. She smiles and nods at a board member beside her. She is the host of this party. My father, Arthur, is on the dais, in the chairman's seat, next to our CEO. He looks powerful, leonine, ready. David Markham, the CFO, is to the CEO's left, his face a mask of neutral professionalism, his notes neatly stacked. And in the shadows of the stage left wing, I see her, Dahlia, my sister. She's holding a clipboard, looking important, waiting for her cue, the cue that will be funded by my stolen equity. She is the heir apparent, waiting to be crowned. I am not in the front row. I am in row 12 on the aisle. I am wearing a charcoal gray suit with a razor-sharp cut. My hair is pulled back so tightly it hurts. I am not an employee today. I am not a daughter. I am a shareholder and a creditor, and I am dressed in armor. In the third row, just off center, sit my guests, Dr. Annabelle Lee, the forensics expert, watching the AV setup with a critical eye, Michael Parrish, the HR expert, looking profoundly bored, and Mr. Kalin from Wilmington Trust, the Bond Trustees Council, his face impassive, his briefcase resting squarely on his knees, my jury. Our CEO, Bill Jensen, steps to the podium, the lights center on him. Thank you all for coming. It's been a banner year for Norhaven. He drones on. The script is predictable. He uses all the right words. Synergy, robust pipeline, forward-looking efficiencies, strategic realignment. He speaks of the tough but necessary decisions to streamline the company. I wonder if I am one of those decisions. Everything, he assures the room, is on track. I am not listening to his words. I am listening to my own heartbeat. It is not fast. It is a slow, cold, heavy metronome, counting down the seconds. Thud, thud, thud. I feel nothing. No fear, no anger, just the cold, clean hum of the inevitable. My father speaks. My mother smiles. The CFO presents the financials, the public financials, not the shadow spreadsheet on his OneDrive. The presentation is a masterpiece of obfuscation, and I almost respect the craft. And now, the CEO concludes, we will open the floor to questions from our registered shareholders. This is it. A moderator steps to a smaller lectern. We will begin with our pre-submitted questions. First, from Mr. James. A man asks a softball question about dividend yields. My father answers with practiced charm. Next, from Ms. Eileen. A question about the marina expansion. The CEO fields it. My hand, holding my blue, pre-registered Q&A card, stays in my lap. I am not first. I am third. I am the cleanup hitter. And our final pre-submitted question, the moderator reads, is from Ms. Tessa Harlow, Head of Compliance. A ripple of confusion. My name is known, but my function is invisible. Why would compliance be asking a question in a public forum? I see my mother's head turn, her brow furrowed in a perfect, elegant line of annoyance. This is not part of the show. My father's smile tightens at the edges. I stand up. Thud, thud, thud. I walk from row 12 to the center aisle. The marble floor is cold. The click-clack-click of my heels is the only sound in the atrium. It sounds like a gavel. 800 pairs of eyes are on me. I reach microphone 3. I adjust it. The main broadcast camera, camera 1, swings and locks onto my face. The bright red live light is burning. I know my other cameras are rolling. Camera 2 on my mother. Camera 3 on the screen. Thank you, I say. My voice is perfectly even. It does not shake. Tessa Harlow, shareholder, and head of compliance. I establish my standing. I am not just their daughter. I am their legal responsibility. Mr. Chairman, before my question, I have a procedural request. On the dais, my father's smile is gone. This is a deviation. He hates deviations. What is it, Tessa? His voice is tight. As part of my Q&A submission, I filed a supplemental slide, S14 for presentation. It contains data critical to shareholder governance and transparency, which I validated with the AV team yesterday for compliance. I use the magic words, compliance, governance, transparency, the General Counsel, Robert Thorne, sitting behind my father, goes white. He knows. He received my preservation notice. He knows this is legal, this is procedural, and he is powerless to stop it. My father looks at Thorne. Thorne gives a tiny, terrified shake of his head. We have to let her. Very well, my father says, his voice like gravel. Show the slide. I turn my head slightly toward the AV booth at the back of the atrium. Brenda, slide S14, please. The 50-foot screen behind the CEO flickers. The Q3 earnings growth chart vanishes. It is replaced by my slide. It is stark, black text on a white background. The title, Critical Governance Failure, Incident Comp L239. The room inhales. This is not on the program. The slide is split in two. On the left, a screenshot of the HRIS log. 3:48 p.m. T. Harlow Performance Review. Q3.docx. pp. Created by S. Jenkins. HR. Access log. 3:51 p.m. E. Harlow guest. On the right, the IT ticket. 3:55 p.m. Urgent ticket. 8891B. Requester. D. Markham, CFO. Subject. Prep for employee separation. Target. T. Harlow. A low murmur begins, the sound of bees trapped in a jar. I narrate the slide in a cold, clear monotone. On Thursday, October 24th, at 3:48 p.m., a fraudulent performance improvement plan was created for my employee file by HR. I pause. At 3:51 p.m., that fraudulent document was reviewed by a non-employee, guest administrator, Eleanor Harlow. I see my mother's hand grip the armrest of her chair. 4 minutes later, I continue. At 3:55 p.m., the CFO filed an urgent ticket to terminate my employment. The murmur is louder now. People are turning in their seats, looking at the front row, looking at the dais. This, I say, was the mechanism, but now, I'd like to show the intent. Brenda, next slide. Click, the screen changes. The HR logs are gone. Now, it is just one image, a single, blue iMessage bubble, blown up to the size of a car. Terminate Tessa before her options vest at 4 p.m. Make HR move. The room is silent, a dead, shocked, absolute silence. 800 people are reading that text. Then, the sound, a collective, audible gasp. The whispers are no longer whispers. They are a roar. Is that real? Oh my God. Vest at 4 p.m. Harlow. In the front row, my mother has stopped breathing. Her face, a moment ago so serene, has collapsed. It is a mask of pure, white-hot, animal panic. She is staring at the screen, her mouth slightly open. The main broadcast camera operator, a genius, understands. He swings camera 1 off of me and zooms, a hard, fast zoom, directly onto my mother's horrified face. That face is now 30 feet high on the side screens. The world is watching her mask crumble. My father is on his feet, his face purple. Turn that off. Turn off her microphone. This is... I speak over him, my voice cutting through the chaos like a razor. This, I say, my eyes locked on the camera, was a coordinated, bad faith conspiracy by an officer of this company and a designated board representative. I turn my gaze from the camera and lock eyes with my mother. To fabricate cause, interfere with an SEC-regulated compensation schedule, and illegally misappropriate $1.4 million in vested corporate assets. I turn to my father, who is frozen, his hand outstretched. This is not a family matter. I look at the 800 shareholders. This is a governance failure. The atrium is exploding. Analysts are on their phones, typing furiously. My father is shouting at the AV booth. The CEO is speechless. And then, a new voice. Chairman? A man in the third row is standing. It's Mr. Kalin. His voice is a cannon, silencing the room. My father freezes. He cannot shout down this man. Mr. Chairman, Kalin repeats, stepping into the aisle. I am Kalin, counsel for Wilmington Trust, the indenture trustee for Norhaven's $150 million 2024 bond series. The general counsel, Robert Thorne, visibly flinches. This is his nightmare. Pursuant to SEC bylaws and Section 8.04 of the Trust Agreement, which governs acts of bad faith and misappropriation by officers, I must interrupt these proceedings to be recognized. I step back from microphone 3. The fuse is lit. The charge is set. The trap is sprung. My part is done. The dominoes are now falling, and they are all aimed directly at the front row. Mr. Kalin, counsel for the bond trustee, has the floor. The atrium, which was a chaotic roar seconds ago, is now utterly silent. His voice is not loud, but it carries the crushing weight of $150 million. Mr. Chairman, Kalin says, ignoring my father's apoplectic sputtering. We were made aware of this potential malfeasance on Monday morning. We have reviewed the memorandum and its appendices, which we find to be credible, verifiable, and deeply disturbing. He holds up a single sheet of paper. Based on the evidence presented today, which confirms the evidence provided to us, specifically the conspiracy by an officer and a designated board representative to misappropriate $1.4 million in corporate assets, we find Norhaven to be in clear and material breach of Section 8.04 of the bond indenture. The air leaves the room. Breach. The word hangs in the air. A death sentence. My father finally finds his voice, a choked, desperate rasp. Now, see here. This is a misunderstanding. A private family matter. It stopped being a family matter. Mr. Harlow, Kalin cuts in, his voice like ice. When your wife and your CFO conspired to commit a financial crime using corporate resources, it stopped being a family matter when you attempted to defraud this company's creditors. Kalin takes 2 steps forward and places the paper on the podium in front of the stunned CEO. Please accept this as formal, public service of a notice of potential default, to be entered into the minutes of this meeting. The bondholder group is hereby reserving all rights, including the right to accelerate the entire $150 million debt. You have 48 hours to propose a remedy. This is the explosion. The word default hits the financial analysts in the back rows like a physical blow. Before Kalin has even finished his sentence, they are on their phones, their fingers flying. Norhaven in breach of covenants. Notice of default served live. Conspiracy to misappropriate funds. The phones on the dais begin to vibrate, one after another. A chorus of buzzing panic. It's the board members, the institutional investors, the banks, the stock, which is traded live, is already cliff diving in pre-market response. My independent third camera feed, locked on the presentation screen, is now capturing the frantic push notifications from Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal appearing on the taskbars of the executive laptops. Stop this, my father roars. Finally finding his footing, he points a shaking finger at the AV booth. Stop the live stream. I order you to stop this broadcast. Robert Thorne, the general counsel, leaps to his feet, his face slick with sweat. "No, Mr. Chairman, you can't." He's not protecting me. He's protecting himself. As per SEC rules on material disclosures, if we stop the broadcast now, during a public default notice, we'll be hit with a Level 1 trading halt and an immediate SEC investigation for concealment. Thorne is practically pleading. The cameras must keep rolling. It's the only way to stay compliant. My father is trapped. The transparency rules I, as head of compliance, had championed for years, are now his prison. The world must be allowed to watch the entire execution. Thorne turns to the room, trying to regain control. "We will have a brief recess, a 10-minute recess to allow the board to confer." "I think not," says a new voice. A woman in the front row stands up. She is the chair of the Independent Audit Committee, a hawk-faced woman named Mary Ann. She is looking at Mr. Kalin, then at me, then at the board. "A recess is inappropriate. We have material allegations on the floor. We have an expert witness present. I suggest we use this time to verify the claims. Dr. Lee?" Dr. Annabelle Lee, my forensics expert, stands, all eyes turned to her. "Dr. Lee," Marianne says, "you provided an affidavit. Can you, in your expert opinion, attest to the validity of the data on that screen?" Dr. Lee, calm and academic, speaks into the microphone passed to her. "I can. The iMessage was captured via a privileged device-side screenshot, but its metadata, timestamp, sender, and recipient device ID, was corroborated by the server-side log, which I audited." She nods to the screen. "The hash values of the HRIS log and the IT ticket, which Ms. Harlow extracted, are a perfect match to the live, read-only audit files I reviewed last night. The data is authentic. Its chain of custody is pristine. This is not an allegation. It is a log file." The CFO, David Markham, who has been frozen in his chair, makes a small, strangled sound. Marianne's gaze snaps to him. "Mr. Markham, do you have a response?" Markham is silent. He stares at the water glass in front of him, his face the color of ash. "Greg?" a voice squeaks. It's Greg Mills, the CFO's assistant, sitting in the row behind him. All heads turn. Greg is pale, tears streaming down his face. He's a 28-year-old analyst, and he is watching his entire career evaporate. "Greg, stay silent," Markham hisses over his shoulder, but Greg is broken. "She asked me to find the file," he sobs, pointing a shaking finger at my mother. "She called it the family equity plan. She made me put that row in. She said it was just a projection. I didn't know." He puts his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking. "It's over. The file is confirmed. The conspiracy is confirmed." Mary Ann, the audit chair, looks at my father with pure, cold disgust. "Mr. Chairman, I am invoking the committee's emergency powers. I call for an immediate, binding board vote to suspend the Chief Financial Officer, David Markham, and the guest administrator, Eleanor Harlow, from all duties, access, and committees, pending a full, independent investigation." My father is sputtering, but the motion has been made. The board members, their faces grim, are already raising their hands. It's unanimous. Markham slumps in his chair as if his spine has been removed. My mother is staring at her hands. She is, for the first time in her life, utterly and completely silent. "This is ridiculous." A new voice, Dahlia. She is stalking from the wings, her face a mask of rage, her clipboard clutched to her chest. She grabs a microphone from the AV table. "You can't do this. This is our company. Tessa is lying. She's just jealous. She's..." Pop, Brenda, in the AV booth, has cut her microphone. The moderator steps forward. "Ma'am, you do not have standing. You are not a shareholder or a board member. Please leave the stage." Dahlia stands there, mouth opening and closing in silent, furious disbelief. Two security guards begin to move toward her. She turns, throws the dead microphone to the ground, and storms off the stage. I have not moved. I have not spoken. I simply stood back from microphone 3, a spectator at my own trial. The dominoes, set in motion by a single, arrogant text, have all fallen. The procedure is running, just as I designed it. The system is cleaning its own infection. The room is silent again. Waiting. The board has acted. The CFO is out. The trustee has served his notice. Marianne, the audit chair, turns to me. Her expression is not kind, but it is respectful. Ms. Harlow, the board has acted on your information. Thank you. We will take it from here. They think it's over. They think this was the climax. They think I did all of this for a job, for $1.4 million. They still don't understand who they are dealing with. Thank you. Ms. Marianne, I say, stepping back to the microphone. My voice is quiet, but it commands the room. I appreciate the board's swift action on the CFO, but you seem to be under a misapprehension. All eyes are back on me. You are acting as if I am just an employee, a whistleblower. I am not. I look at Mr. Kalin, the bond trustee. Mr. Kalin, I am the managing director of Thayer Ridge Holdings, LLC. Kalin's eyes widen. He understands. Ms. Harlow, you are Thayer Ridge? I am, I say. I turn back to the stunned, silent room. Thayer Ridge Holdings, which I control, is the creditor that purchased 12% of your outstanding bond debt over the last quarter. As you have just triggered the bad faith covenant, I am not just a whistleblower, Mr. Chairman. I am your single largest aggrieved creditor, and I am exercising my rights, under Section 8.04, to demand immediate changes to governance. My father's face, which was purple with rage, is now chalk white with terror. I am not just his daughter. I am his bank. You thought this was about my $1.4 million in equity, I say, my voice cold. It's not. It's about your $150 million in debt, and it's about this. I signal to Brenda. One last slide. The screen changes. The iMessage is gone. It is replaced by a scanned document, a simple credit report. Account opened. 2019. Type, business loan guarantee. SSN, XXXXXX. My social security number, liability, $5,000. This, I say, is the data center guarantee I was pressured to sign in 2019. The one that makes me, personally, liable for $5 million of corporate debt. The debt of the same company that was, as of this morning, actively conspiring to terminate me for cause, leaving me jobless, optionless, and holding this $5 million bag. I look at my mother. Her head is bowed. She is refusing to look at me. But that's not the worst part, I say. Look at the contact information for the account. I zoom in. Account manager. Eleanor Harlow. Contact purpose. For family needs. My social security number, my financial future, her name, her control. The atrium is so quiet, I can hear the building's air conditioning. They did not just try to steal my future. They have been holding my past hostage for years. They disowned me at dinner, all while planning to leave me with their debts. That is not a family matter. It is not even governance. It is a crime. I look at my mother. Her entire body is trembling. She is broken. I look at my father. He is staring at the floor, a completely defeated old man. I give them the only mercy I have left. I am a creditor. I could accelerate this debt and force this company into bankruptcy. I could press federal charges for wire fraud and identity theft. I will do neither. My father looks up, a flicker of desperate hope in his eyes. On one condition, I look directly at my mother. Eleanor Harlow, you will step down from all committees, all board-related activities, and all guest privileges. David Markham will be terminated, not suspended, and Arthur Harlow, I say, turning to my father, you will resign as chairman of the board. I place a stack of pre-printed resignation letters on the podium. You will sign these, right now, in front of all 800 shareholders. You will do it, or I will instruct Mr. Kalin to accelerate the debt at 4:01 p.m. The choice is yours. My father looks at the papers. He looks at my mother. He looks at the cameras. He is beaten. He takes the pen and signs. My mother, her face a tear-streaked, ruined mask, is helped to the podium by the general counsel. She signs the paper without looking at it. It is done. The reign of the founders is over. I step back to the microphone. This company is not a family piggy bank. We have 3,000 employees who deserve better. Therefore, I propose that 30% of the family capital equity, the shares my parents just forfeited, be placed into a new employee compensation trust, to be voted by the employees themselves. A ripple of shock, then, from the back of the room, from the employees, the analysts, the small-time investors. A sound begins. Applause. It is not a polite clap. It is a roar. It is a standing ovation. The front row, my parents' allies, my family's friends, remain seated, their faces like stone. They are silent. I pick up my notes, my phone, on the lectern. Buzzes. A new text message from Dahlia. You win. I look at the screen. I feel the vibration in my hand. I silence the phone. I do not reply. This was never a game. The applause from the back rows, from the employees, is a wave of sound, a release of pressure that has been building for years. It washes over the stunned silence of the front rows. Marianne, the audit chair, does not applaud. She is a woman of pure procedure. She steps to the podium, takes the signed resignation letters from my father and mother, and sets them aside as if they are evidence in a hazmat bag. This meeting is not adjourned, she announces. Her voice is a hammer, bringing order to the chaos. By the authority of the audit committee and the remaining members of the board, this meeting is now convened as an emergency special session. She looks at the dais, at the CEO, Bill Jensen, who is standing, mute, his script useless, at the general counsel, Robert Thorne, who is visibly shaking. Mr. Jensen, Marianne says, her voice devoid of any warmth. You sat on that dais and presented a fraudulent picture of this company's health while you were, at minimum, aware of irregularities. You failed to act. The board has lost confidence. You are removed as CEO. Effective immediately. We will discuss your severance later. Or, if the independent investigation warrants, your prosecution. Bill Jensen sags, his face gray. He is done. Marianne turns to Robert Thorne. Mr. Thorne, you are the highest-ranking officer remaining. You are appointed interim chief executive officer, effective immediately. Your first duty is to save this company. Thorne, terrified, nods. Yes, I understand. Your second duty, Marianne continues, is to engage an external, independent legal counsel, one with no prior affiliation to Norhaven or the Harlow family, to conduct a full top-to-bottom investigation into the matters raised today, as well as all executive compensation, vendor contracts, and off-book agreements. Is that clear? Crystal, Thorne chokes out. I step forward to microphone 3. The process is moving, but the data is my domain. Mr. Thorne, I say. He flinches, turning to me as if I am the one holding the gavel. As head of compliance, I must advise you that my legal hold, Incident Comp L239, must be immediately expanded. It must now encompass all repositories, accounts, and entities associated with family capital, including all personal devices, offshore servers, and all communications related to the Dahlia Harlow VP Strategy recruitment file. All data is to be preserved and mirrored for the external investigators. Do you acknowledge this directive? Acknowledged, he says, relief warring with his fear. I have just given him his first clear order. Now, I change hats. The employee steps back, and the creditor steps forward. I turn my gaze to Marianne. Ms. Marianne, as the managing director of Thayer Ridge Holdings, I must address the notice of default. The room is quiet again. The money is back in play. Thayer Ridge will forbear on accelerating the debt, contingent on the board's full compliance with this restructuring However, as is our right under the covenant, we demand the immediate appointment of 2 new, fully independent directors to the board, chosen from a list Thayer Ridge will provide. These directors will have 0 prior connection to the Harlow family and will be experts in forensic accounting and corporate governance. Marianne nods. There is no negotiation. They are at the mercy of their lender, and their lender is me. The board accepts the condition. The process continues. The loose ends are being tied, one by one, in public. I look into the audience and find the pale, terrified face of Sarah Jenkins, the HR manager who drafted my pay. Ms. Jenkins, I say. My voice is not cruel. It is simply factual. She looks like she is about to faint. You will return to your office. You will immediately rescind and delete the fraudulent document. T. Harlow Performance Review, Q3.docx. You will then send a formal notification to the interim CEO, the payroll department, and the equity administrator, confirming that my employment status is unbroken and in good standing. You will confirm that my equity grant, as per my original contract, will vest, untouched, at 4:03 p.m. today. I check my watch. 10:45 a.m. You have 5 hours and 15 minutes, I state. Please do so immediately. She nods, grabbing her bag and scurrying out of the atrium like a frightened rabbit. Finally, I address the employee trust. The applause has died, but the employees are still standing, watching my every move. Mr. Thorne, Ms. Marianne, I say, my proposal for an employee trust is not a request. It is the final condition of Thayer Ridge's forbearance. The equity forfeited by the Harlow family will be the seed of this trust. I walk to the podium. I place my own file next to the resignation letters to demonstrate my commitment to this new structure. I am also effective upon vesting, committing 25% of my own personal shares, the $1.4 million they tried to steal, to this trust. I pull a pen from my jacket, in front of the cameras, in front of the board. I sign the transfer document, committing my own money. A new murmur erupts. This was not a power grab. This was a rebalancing. Marianne is staring at me, a deep, calculated look in her eyes. She sees the room. She sees the employees watching me. She sees the bondholders' representative, Mr. Kalin, nodding in approval. She sees a path out of the fire. She steps to the microphone, interrupting the buzz. Ms. Harlow? Tessa? She waits until I look up from the document. Given the catastrophic failure of leadership and your unique and proven commitment to this company's integrity, the board asks if you would consider stepping in as interim chief executive officer. The room holds its breath. This is the moment, the checkmate, the wrong daughter, finally ascending to the throne. The employees are looking at me, hope in their eyes. Robert Thorne is looking at me, desperate to be relieved of the burden. I look at the CEO's chair, the one my father occupied for 20 years, the one where he sat and signed off on Dahlia's budgets and my mother's schemes. The throne. I feel a sudden, profound wave of nothing, not desire, not ambition, not even vindication, just a cold, sharp, clinical clarity. No, my refusal is sharp, absolute. It cuts the air. Marianne looks stunned. Ms. Harlow? I step to the microphone, one last time. Thank you, Ms. Marianne, but I must respectfully decline. I am the head of compliance. I look at the employees, at the board, at the investors. My role is not to sit on the throne. My role is to be the auditor in the tower, ensuring the person on the throne is honest. Compliance belongs outside the royal court, with the independent authority to watch the king, not be the king, blinded by the power. I turn to Robert Thorne, who looks like he's just been handed a life sentence. Mr. Thorne is the interim CEO. I will be in my office on the 14th floor, ensuring he does his job. My work continues. Thorne, accepting his fate, is already on his phone, snapping orders to his legal team. The new machine is lurching to life. Get communications on the line. Now, I want a press release drafted in 5 minutes. Norhaven Brands announces major governance overhaul. Quote, the board has accepted the resignations of Chairman Arthur Harlow and Board Representative Eleanor Harlow. Quote, CFO David Markham has been terminated for cause, effective immediately, following the discovery of gross financial malfeasance and conspiracy. I want the words independent investigation, strengthened controls, and a new zero-tolerance policy explicitly forbidding conflicts of interest related to family members. I want it on the wire before the market opens. The financial press, already live blogging the entire catastrophe, pushes the alerts. My Thayer Ridge phone buzzes, a push notification from a bond trading platform. Norhaven Brands, NHB, bonds, 8 points, recovering on news of governance change and creditor forbearance. The market, which loathes instability, has been reassured. The cancer was not just discovered, it was publicly, clinically, and immediately excised. The company will survive. The meeting is finally adjourned. The spell is broken. The red live lights on the cameras blink off. Investors are swarming, talking into phones, creating a wall of noise. Through the chaos, I see them. Security is not touching them, but firmly escorting them. My mother and Dahlia. They are not being led out the grand glass doors of the atrium. They are being guided to a gray metal service door on the side, the one used by catering and maintenance. My mother is a wraith. Her Chanel suit is just cloth. Her face is vacant, hollowed out. She doesn't look at me. Dahlia, however, Dahlia is pure, unadulterated rage. She is shaking. She looks at me across the atrium, and her eyes promise a future war, but she is a general with no army, a queen with no kingdom. The metal door clicks shut behind them. My father is already gone, led out a different exit by Robert Thorne. The atrium is emptying, the noise fading. I don't leave. I stand by the now silent microphone. I look past the empty stage, past the founder's portrait that is now a monument to a lie. I look to the back of the room, the employee section, the accountants, the IT admins, the logistics managers, the HR coordinators. They haven't left. They are still standing, watching me. They are the ones who have carried the weight of my family's creativity for years, the ones who had to fix the broken systems, process the fraudulent invoices, and endure the arrogance, the insurance. They are watching me. No one is clapping. One by one, they just nod, a slow, silent, profound acknowledgement. I hold their gaze. I nod back. This is the company, not the name on the wall, and it is finally, brutally, free. The applause for the employee trust proposal, the real warm applause from the back of the atrium, is fading. It leaves a vacuum, a ringing silence filled with the frantic, high-pitched whisper of the front rows. The board members are huddled, their faces a mask of pale, grim necessity. The financial press is a low roar of dictated reports, a feeding frenzy in real time. Robert Thorne, our new, terrified interim CEO, is at the side podium, shuffling papers, trying to find a script that doesn't exist. Mary Ann, the audit chair, is speaking to him in a low, furious monotone, her words invisible but her intent clear. Fix this. I am still standing by the main lectern, the signed trust document, a heavy final period on the page. The air is thick with the ozone of the strike, the smell of scorched earth. The moderator, Brenda, who I had forced into this by validating my slide, approaches me. She has taken off her heavy headset. Her eyes are wide, reflecting the chaos of the room, but they are fixed on me with a look of terrifying awe. Ms. Harlow, she whispers, her voice hoarse. Mr. Thorne is trying to convene the emergency session, the board. They're moving, but the broadcast feed, the whole financial world is still online. They're not watching the board. They're watching you. She gestures to the main camera, its red light still a burning, unblinking eye. It hasn't wavered. It's still locked on my face. Do you have a final word? She asks, her voice cracking. A concluding statement for the broadcast? Before I have to cut the feed? They're all waiting to hear what you say next. She is offering me the final word, the epilogue, the last, clean cut. I nod. Just once. I don't walk back to microphone 3, the one in the aisle, the one for a questioner. I walk to the main podium, the one my father just signed his abdication on. I stand behind it, in the center of the stage, the 50-foot lie of my family's founder's portrait at my back. I am, for this one, final moment, the center of the Norhaven universe. The whispering stops, the frantic typing in the press row pauses. Thorne and Marianne freeze, their heads snapping toward me, their faces a new mask of fear. What is she going to do now? 800 pairs of eyes, the hot, heavy glare of the broadcast lights. I can feel the absolute, crushing silence of 1,000 invisible viewers leaning toward their screens. I look past the empty chair in the front row, the one my mother occupied. I look past the water glass left by David Markham. I see the entire, ruined landscape of their failed coup. I lean forward. The microphone, the CEO's microphone, is live. It picks up the sound of my breathing. I was told, I say, my voice perfectly calm, echoing through the vast atrium, at a dinner just last week, that I didn't deserve a dime. I pause. I let the words hang in the air. A final, cold piece of evidence. I am not angry. I am not sad. I am a fact. I lift my eyes from the room and look directly into the hot lens of the main broadcast camera. I am not speaking to the board or the employees. I am speaking to the record. I am speaking to everyone who has ever been told they were practical, that they were insurance, that they were a cost to be managed. Turns out, I say, my voice a blade, I only needed daylight. A single, brilliant, blinding flash pops from the press row. A punctuation mark. It leaves a ghost of white light burned into my vision. On the massive screen behind me, the image has not changed. Brenda, or someone in the booth, has frozen the frame. It is not my face. It is not the iMessage. It is the log. 3:55 p.m. Urgent ticket, 8891B. Subject, prep for employee separation. Target, T. Harlow. The digital proof, the time of the intended execution. Now a permanent, public monument to their failure. The applause starts then. It is not the warm roar from before. It's a single, sharp clap from the employee section in the back. A crack in the silence. Then another, and another. It is not a wave of celebration. It is a cold wave. A cold wave. A slow, rhythmic, almost chilling ovation. It is not for a victory. It is for a reckoning. It is the sound of the machine acknowledging the reset. The sound of thousands of tiny, broken rules finally being answered for. It is the sound of the insurance policy paying out, in full. I do not smile. I do not nod. I do not bask in it. My hand reaches down to the control panel on the lectern. I find the small, glowing green button next to the microphone icon. I press it. The light turns red, then off. A small, definitive click echoes through the PA system. My statement is over. I turn, not to the side, but directly back, and step off the dais. I walk past the stunned, silent board. I walk past Robert Thorne, who looks at me as if I am a force of nature he has just survived. I walk past my jury in the third row. Dr. Lee, Mr. Parrish, Mr. Kalin, they are all standing. They do not clap. They simply watch. Witnesses to the end. I walk down the center aisle, the same aisle I walked up to begin this. My heels click, sharp and final. On the marble floor, click, clack, click. The sound of the cold applause follows me, but I do not turn. I do not look back at the chaos I have wrought. I do not look back at the portrait of the founders. I do not look back at the life, the identity, the family. I have just clinically, publicly, and permanently dismantled. My back is to the room. I am not explaining. I am not looking back. I reach the great glass doors of the atrium, a security guard, his face pale and awestruck, scrambles to pull one open for me. I step out of the cold, recycled air and into the bright, clear, afternoon sunlight. Behind me, I hear Marianne's voice, amplified and strained, as the speakers carry it through the open door. This special session of the Norhaven Brand's annual meeting is now called to order. The meeting continues. Robert Thorne has to find a way to save a company. The board has to find new directors. The SEC will investigate. The press will feast. That is their story. But mine, the one they tried to write for me, the one where I was terminated at 3:59 p.m., that story is over. Thank you so much for listening to this story. We'd love to know where you're tuning in from. So drop a comment below, share your thoughts, and let's connect. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and give us a little extra support by hitting that hype button. It makes a huge difference and helps get this story heard by so many more people.